Namaskar, Namaste, welcome to Hillside and to our journey through the fascinating world of African diaspora genealogy and ancestry. My name is Bishop Jack Bomar and I serve as the presiding bishop here at Hillside. And I'm excited for you to join our members and founders of Good Genes Genealogy Services who will guide you through our amazing stories and discoveries from other Hillside members. You will also have a chance to learn more about how to trace your genealogy on an interactive technology platform also included in this video presentation. Before I conclude, I want to share with you my initial journey into my family's genealogy. A couple of years ago, I invited Dr. Ann Kimbrough to join me in tracing my ancestry and could only go as far back as my great-grandfather and great-grandmother at the time on my mother's side. And through her services and that of her assistant cousin Mark, I learned a lot about my family that I didn't know, and come to find out my great-grandfather was a lieutenant in the armed forces, the Army, and no one in my family knew that. And so what it has done is it's brought such enlightenment to the family and a sense of pride and joy and knowing who we are. And for many instances in our culture, we can only go back so far in our history. But their services and that of Dr. Ann and what they were able to share has been such a blessing to me and my family. So I want to encourage you to embark upon this journey. Get ready for an exciting time. Thank you so much for joining our community of legacy enthusiasts and story seekers. Let's begin.
Greetings. I am Reverend Sharon Hodnett from Hillside International Truth Center, and I want to tell you a little bit about my genealogy journey. I would like to share some of the pictures that were instrumental in this. The three boys in the burgundy are my brothers, my biological brothers, Charles, Joseph, and Eric. The woman holding the youngest fella in the gray and beige dress is my biological mother, Diane. Daisy, my adopted mother, and me at age, I think 15 or 16. As you can see in the pictures, I do look like my biological mother. In February of 2021, our church gave a genealogy sessions called The Bible Tells Us So. And quite honestly, I really didn't have any interest in looking at the genealogy information, but mainly because I knew I was an adopted child since I was 7. I had no interest in finding out my biological family at the time, and I wasn't sure I really wanted to dig into genealogy for my adopted family because I didn't really know that much about their history. But my spouse was doing it, and I assisted her in her Zoom and getting it set up and got enthralled listening to Dr. Ann Weed Kimbrough and Mark S. Owen talking about genealogy and talking about the history. And that sparked an interest in my heart. So during COVID, when many of us were trying to figure out things to do, I took the journey on looking through genealogy to see if I could find my adoptive family's information. I really didn't have that much about my mother's side or my father's side. I was born in the era of children are to be, that's not necessarily seen, but they definitely weren't around to hear anything that adults were talking about. So there was a lot of misinformation that I did not have. And since both my adoptive parents had transitioned and my stepfather had transitioned, and that year, unfortunately, the elder in our family, the matriarch, had also transitioned. Um, I had to start from scratch. So I had a friend, and you might have already been introduced to her. Her name is Valerie Tolliver, who was doing her genealogy and found out a lot of wonderful information. And I decided, hey, I've got some pictures of some of my family, if and their names. If you could go online and just see if you could see anything, and let me know. Well, lo and behold, the exact same pictures of my mother's sisters, my mother who adopted me, and cousins were online. That really. I spoke to my cousins and they gave me the number from my aunt. And as it turns out, I was named after her. They didn't know my name because my biological mom was 15 and the family, well, let's not even get into that story. My biological mom was 15. Her sister was 5. And when she went to the hospital, the name she gave them was her sister's name, Sharon Denise Gray. So I'm actually named after my biological aunt, which is another thing that amazes me because, we as a people will find a way, leave a breadcrumb, leave a hint so that people can find each other. And that's how they knew it was me when I sent the email because she had the exact same name. And lo and behold, I got a chance to meet her. We talk often. Um, we met, let's see, we spoke first talked in July, and by August we had already met. And as it turns out, she lives in Georgia in LaGrange. So it was wonderful getting to meet her, but it was amazing that at 57 is the first time I saw someone that looked like me. My aunt and I look a lot alike, and it's wonderful. So I've met my aunt, I've met my nieces, I've met some great nieces. I have met I've got not met, but I've talked on the phone to two of my brothers, um, and that's a joy. The patriarch of the family, I speak to him every week, every week. He has given me the most information, and he has just been my heart. So I get a chance to speak with him and laugh with him, share things with him. I even got to share a sermon that I did, and it was just an amazing feeling having someone who just met me, who tells me every time we speak he loves me, how proud he is of me. I found out my mother's name, my father's name, both of which who transitioned, but I'm here and I'm so happy to know the information. I went from being an adoptive daughter, one of four, youngest of four, to being the biological oldest of four. Fours. I found out my grandmother's name. I found out my aunt's names and some amazing similarities. So I decided to join ancestry.com and see if I could find some more information. So I started digging and digging, and I did find a family tree that was related to mine, but the stories didn't match up. Some of the names didn't necessarily match up. So I was still at a loss, and I kept running into brick walls here and there. And quite honestly, I got a bit discouraged. And then in 2022, I decided to see if I could find out some information about my family, my biological family, because I had heard that in Jersey they had released the information where you could find out who your biological family was, or you could find out information on who adopted your child because they had released all the records. So again, here I am digging, and I ran into some brick walls again. So I went back to the genealogy for my adoptive family, and I actually started finding more information because I realized that because I knew the spelling of the name and because I knew where they lived and because I knew the dates didn't necessarily mean that the records online were accurate. So as I looked at information that was on the 1930 census, I realized that although someone had believed that the name written there was Boggs, I could tell from the writing it was Burks, and it was my adoptive family's information. So I was so excited. I found out pictures of my great grandparents, and I found the information on my Aunt Lizzie, who was actually Georgia. And although I was born in Jersey, adopted in Jersey, my family was originally from here in Georgia, Decatur, Georgia, as a matter of fact. But I kept still running into some brick walls because although I could find my mother's sisters, Rose, Olivia, and Lizzie, my Uncle Henry, her brother, because she was the youngest, I couldn't find any information on her. None. No census records at all, and I know she was born in 1925. So I was a bit disheartened again. But as I was disheartened about that information and a little bit disheartened about not being able to find the records for my biological family, my spouse did something wonderful and unexpected. She ordered the Ancestry kit. So in, I believe it was May of, because it was for Mother's Day, May of 2023, I did the Ancestry DNA kit and sent the information in. And in July of 2023, I got my results back with hits for family and cousins and a whole slew of people I had never heard of because I had no information whatsoever about my family. And I called the first person that was a second cousin. It was a woman because the first cousins were males. And I felt a little odd or a little something or some kind of way about introducing myself to people I didn't know as a child that they may not have any idea about. But I took a deep breath and I called her, and she was very friendly. She was very cooperative, but she had no information to give me. She had no knowledge, she had no record, she had no idea. And in fact, she was looking for information as well. That's why she was on Ancestry. So again, I took the advice of Dr. Ann Weed Kimbrough and said, contact that first cousin because your first cousin would actually be your mom's or your dad's brother or sister. So I took a deep breath. I emailed them because they did have their information on Ancestry. And I simply said, hello, I am Sharon Hodnett. My birth name was Sharon Denise Gray. I was born on August 19th, 1965. And I know I was adopted and we are a biological match. Do you have any information? And although I know this may come out of the blue, if you do have any information, please contact me. And I left my email and telephone number. The next day, he contacted me and he was very excited about finding out more information. But he said another cousin may be able to assist me further. So he contacted other cousin because the other cousin had a whole DNA family tree. So I contacted that cousin, and lo and behold, that's my family. It is my family. They were looking for me. They were looking for me. All this time, they were looking for me. And that is an incredible feeling to know that people that didn't even know you for over 50 years have been looking for you. The whole idea of finding out who you are, who your people are, and then receiving the love. Not that I didn't get love from my adoptive family. I have been loved by every person in my family, my adoptive family, my stepdad, and now I get some love from my biological family too. It's just amazing. And there's so many stories I can tell you that have come about from this journey, but it's been an incredible journey.